Let me ask you something first. Have you ever walked away from a conversation with a narcissist feeling like somehow you were the one who did something wrong? You went in with a valid concern, you stayed calm, you said what you meant, and by the end of it, you were apologizing. I've been there, and I remember the exact moment I realized what was happening, not during the conversation, but 2 hours later, alone, trying to piece together how I had ended up defending myself instead of being heard. That moment changed everything about how I respond to narcissistic behavior. And that's what I want to share with you today. 7 things that actually work when you're dealing with a narcissist. Not theories, not generic advice. Things I wish someone had told me before I spent years figuring them out the hard way. Subscribe if this is something you need right now. New video every week. Number 1. Stop trying to win the argument. I know. That sounds like giving up. It's not. Here's the truth nobody tells you. You cannot win an argument with a narcissist using logic. Not because your logic is wrong, it isn't, but because they're not playing the same game you are. You're trying to find truth. They're trying to win. And in that game, any point you make becomes an attack for them to defend against. Any evidence you present becomes proof that you're keeping score. Any emotion you show becomes a weapon they can use. The moment I stopped trying to be right in the conversation and started focusing on what I actually needed from the interaction, the entire dynamic changed. Not because they changed, because I stopped feeding the loop. Ask yourself before any difficult conversation, what do I actually need here? Not to be right, not to make them admit it. What do I need? That question alone will change how you show up. Number 2, use the gray rock method, but understand why it works. You may have heard of the gray rock method. The idea is simple. Become as uninteresting as possible. Short answers. No emotion, no reaction. But here's what most people don't explain about why it works. Narcissistic behavior is driven by what's called narcissistic supply. The emotional reaction they get from you. The hurt, the anger, the confusion, the defensiveness. All of it feeds the dynamic. And when you give them nothing interesting to react to, you remove the supply. Not because you're being strategic or cold, but because you're protecting your energy for things and people that actually matter. Does it feel unnatural? Yes, especially if you're someone who values honest communication. But there's a difference between the communication you deserve and the communication that's actually available in this relationship. And recognizing that difference is not a defeat, it's clarity. Number 3, never jade. Justify, argue, defend, or explain. Has this ever happened to you? They say something that isn't true. You try to explain your side. They question your explanation. You give more details. They question those too. 40 minutes later, you're exhausted and nothing is resolved. That's the jade trap. The more you justify, argue, defend, or explain to a narcissist, the more material you give them to work with. Every explanation is a new door they can open. Every defense is an admission that you feel you need to defend yourself. The alternative? A short, calm sentence and silence. I see it differently. Full stop. That's not something I'm going to discuss. Full stop. I disagree. Full stop. No elaboration, no emotion, no invitation to continue. It feels uncomfortable at first because we're wired to want to be understood, but understanding is not always available. And learning to recognize when it isn't is one of the most important things you can do for yourself. Number 4, protect your information. This one surprised me when I first understood it. Anything personal you share with a narcissist can and will be used against you, not always immediately. Sometimes years later, in a completely different context, in front of people who matter to you. Your fears, your insecurities, the things you're proud of, the things you feel guilty about. All of it becomes potential leverage. This doesn't mean you have to be closed off from everyone forever, but it does mean being selective about what you share with whom and when. The level of intimacy in the relationship should match the level of trust that has been demonstrated over time, not just promised. Ask yourself, Has this person used something I told them in confidence against me before? If the answer is yes, that's your answer. Number 5. Set limits, not ultimatums. There's a difference between a limit and an ultimatum, and it matters. An ultimatum is about changing their behavior. If you do this again, I'll leave. That puts the control in their hands and turns your well-being into a negotiation. A limit is about your own behavior. If this happens, I will do this. That puts the control in your hands. Yeah, if this conversation becomes disrespectful, I'm going to end it. If plans keep changing last minute without notice, I'm going to stop making them. If my concerns are dismissed, I'm going to handle this situation myself. The difference feels small, but it's enormous. One is a threat, the other is information about how you intend to treat yourself. And here's the hard truth. A limit only means something if you follow through with it. Every time you say something and don't do it, you teach the other person exactly what your words are worth. Number 6, don't take the bait. A narcissist often knows exactly which button to push. The thing you're insecure about, the mistake you made that you haven't forgiven yourself for, the relationship that still hurts. They'll use it, not always viciously, sometimes casually, almost accidentally, but it's there. Have you ever noticed how the most hurtful things they say seem specifically designed for you? That's not a coincidence. The bait is designed to provoke a reaction, anger, tears, defensiveness, anything that takes you off your center and puts them back in control of the dynamic. The most powerful thing you can do in that moment is pause, physically, breathe, and then respond to what's actually happening rather than what you're feeling. Not because your feelings don't matter, because your reaction in that moment is the only thing you have complete control over. Number 7, prioritize getting out over getting even. This is the one that took me the longest to accept. When you've been hurt by someone, there's a very human part of you that wants acknowledgement. You want them to understand what they did. You want something that feels like justice. I want to be honest with you, that acknowledgement is very rarely coming from a narcissist. Not because the truth doesn't exist, but because a narcissist's survival depends on never having to confront the full impact of their behavior. Accountability to them is an existential threat. So the question becomes, are you going to spend your energy trying to get something that isn't available? Or are you going to spend it building something that is? Getting out, physically, emotionally, psychologically, isn't giving up. It's choosing where your energy goes. And that choice, more than anything else on this list, is the one that will actually change your life. 7 things. Some of them take time. Some of them feel wrong at first. All of them work. If you recognize yourself in any of this, if you've been in that conversation where somehow you ended up apologizing, I want you to know something. That didn't happen because there's something wrong with you. It happened because you were dealing with a dynamic that most people aren't equipped to recognize, let alone navigate. You're more equipped now. Subscribe for more videos on dark psychology and how to protect your mind. I'll see you next week.